Hello and welcome back to the 1885 show. Now we have got legendary host. He's come back. It is Frankie. How you doing, mate?
Very, very good, mate. Very good. It's nice to be back. And, to be back and speak about a 3-0 home win. Perfect timing,
Yeah.
right, mate? Perfect timing.
No, honestly, amazing. And obviously, it's great to have yourself back and back in the chair where you belong. Now, obviously, we are off the back of two amazing wins now away from Bristol and obviously at home to Norwich. The season probably couldn't have started any better. But how was your feeling before the game, obviously, going into Norwich, mate?
I'm not going to lie. I wasn't particularly positive, mate. I think I still a bit of a hangover from the game we had, when was it, April, against Norwich, when they turned us over 2-1 and, pretty much guaranteed their local rivals promotion. So I weren't expecting a win. I can't remember. When was the last time Millwall won the first two games of the season? It was something like 2015, wasn't it? So
Yeah, I mean, we got relegated that year.
really?
Or we was down in the relegation zone by that year. Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah.
So I weren't expecting too much, to be honest with you, but the performance was outstanding.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, going into that game, 100%, I was like, Norwich, obviously, on the back end of their kind of rise since they got Clement in last year, they were kind of supposedly how when we got Alex Neil in, he kind of was like the best manager from the point he came in and whatever else. And you obviously looked at when they turned us over at our place. Obviously, I know we had the whole controversy with Blackburn the week before, and I feel like that did actually lead into that Norwich game. And kind of, I feel like if we don't lose to Blackburn, we don't lose to Norwich in that situation. But obviously going into Saturday's game, I thought, Norwich are going to be a good side this year. Definitely, I think looking back at it, probably end of the season, we're going to look back at that and think we've beat someone that's probably challenging us for playoffs here.
I think so.
And the same with Bristol City. I think, to be fair, the first two games that we've had, we've probably beaten two playoff contenders with us. And, I could be happier if I'm honest. And like you said, the performances as well. We haven't gone to Bristol and scraped a 1-0. We've absolutely dominated that game. I know the red card helps. And even again with Saturday's game, they got a red card. But overall, I feel like we dominated much before that anyway. And
Game was
to be
over
fair,
at that point.
yeah, I mean, we have dominated both games and we do look really strong. And, we've obviously got Kramer out. We don't know what's going to happen with 𝗚𝗡𝗪. And then obviously you still got the Serbs come back. You still got 𝗖𝗎 to come into the fold and Del Boy and everything else as well. You still got a lot of players coming in that, can break into this team and improve us still. And especially give us a lot more options off the bench. We saw the likes of Lovelace and those type of players come on Saturday. And yes, they did their part, but ultimately, if the game was a 1-1 at 2-2, are they going to come on and change the game? Probably not. But we'd done our job by that point. So, looking at it in that sense, it was a really good game on Saturday.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I want to touch on Norwich a little bit actually, because I want to get your opinion on Norwich for the season, really. But again, before the game, you're sort of looking at the 11. You think to yourself, arguably on paper, if they're both fully fit, both of our best wingers, being 𝗚𝗡𝗪 and 𝗬𝗢𝗓 at the minute, you'd probably, in my opinion, I would say if he was fully fit and firing, is probably our best left winger. Both of them are injured. Our best right back is injured. Our second best right back is injured. All right, 𝗖𝗎 was class when he came in, to be fair to him, but Derek injured. 𝗚𝗎𝗪𝗡 signing injured. The second top goal scorer, I think it was last year, injured. And you're thinking, we are playing a good side, but we absolutely bullied them, mate, didn't we? I mean, it was complete domination from start to finish. The red card had no bearing on the game whatsoever. I actually thought they, for a little bit, looked a bit better after the red card, to be honest. But just on Norwich, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this, because I feel like they've got a hell of a lot of plaudits. A lot of people saying, they'll be well up there because of what they did last season. Personally, I just don't see it, mate. I think they were outstanding second half last season when Clement come in, but it's so easy to turn around and be quite good when your season's finished. They had no pressure every single week last year towards about when Clement come in, really. So yeah, funnily enough, you did look quite good. And there was a new manager bounce. If you actually look at Clement's record, he seems to do this in every single club he's at, where the second season, he's just not the same. He's just not as good. I don't know, mate. Personally, I don't think Norwich will be down there, but I don't think Norwich will be top.
I think it comes from a stem of looking at Norwich in a sense of, especially for while I've been alive, they are pretty typically, your championship royalty. They're a team that goes up 1 year, comes down, goes back up, comes down. I know they haven't done that obviously recently, but they are usually in and around there. And again, Championship is, look at them, like one of those leagues where, I mean, look at last season, a lot of big clubs, Sheffield, Southampton, obviously before they started winning every single game with their spies. You're looking at obviously, Norwich last year as well. A lot of clubs didn't perform. And again, you're going to get that every year. And, I think you've already seen it, I think West Ham's obviously, in 2 games they've, already hit, and, all these people on talkSPORT telling me they're going to lose 4 games only this season, going to go unbeaten. Listen, this is a
Ain't
championship.
won a game yet.
Everyone can beat everyone.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I think, Burnley's another one. They go up, they go down, but ultimately they're just one of them teams you just know are going to be in and around it, regardless of how good or bad their start to the season is. And I think, I
I'm not
think,
so sure, mate.
fortunately,
I'm not so sure. I look at some of these sides' 11s, and maybe this is me being a little bit arrogant here, but if you was like, well, sticking on Norwich, how many players in that Norwich 11 get in our side? Like,
quite in our current
first,
team,
yeah, start 11 versus start 11, ignoring the fact that we got injuries. Let's say we didn't have any injuries. How many of them Norwich players start for us? The goalkeeper don't. Would you have Fisher over Crammer? No chance. Would you have Darling or Cordoba over Cooper and Taylor? No. Would you have Ben Christine over Sturge? No. Sam Fielding? Not a chance. Kenny McLean? Maybe 5 years ago, not now. Andre Brooks? I like Andre Brooks, but over Femi. Actually, joking. Slimane is one of the worst players I've ever seen, so definitely not getting over Negley. 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗡, I actually think is pretty good, but so
he's
maybe
only a kid, though, isn't he?
yeah, so maybe he'd get in. And that Toure was electric at times last season, but you having him over Coburn? Absolutely not. So
No, I mean, based on 11s, you're going to do that. But again, probably looking at teams who are, I guess you could talk maybe in that top 6 teams that you'd say, yeah, they're the top 16. They look at our 11 and go, do we get over him? Probably not. You could do that with every team. And like you said, I think, you look at it as a squad. At the moment we're fighting for places in our 25-man squad and thinking, do we loan out the likes of the youngsters to get players in? And obviously we brought in 2-2. Which is another squad place at this point. So you are looking at that in a sense of, as a squad, we probably haven't got the best squad on paper.
start 11's really strong.
Yeah, 11's strong, but then obviously, especially with the injury we have at the moment, there's a lot of players that are out. But ultimately, I do still think that Norwich are a team that, if they click, they can be especially with the playoffs now being 8 places. You can obviously see, I just see them as being at least a contender. Before the start of the season, there's no way you would have said, yeah, they're not going to be up there. So that's just the way I look at it. I look at Bristol, I look at Norwich, and I think they're 2 teams who, especially Bristol, they've invested a lot with 𝗗𝗢𝗪𝗓 and obviously Ballard. They're going to be up there in your head in the sense of like they're a good team now.
If it clicks, yeah.
Yeah. So again, like the back end of the season, you're going to look back and think like last year when we missed out on 1 point. I said before the start of the season, with the first 4 games, if we can get anywhere near 10 points, I'll be, it's an amazing start. If we can get anywhere over 5, I'm happy. We've already got 6.
We got 6. Yeah.
And we're top of the table. So, that just makes it a lot easier to look at the league table when you can't even see West Ham in the top half. So,
Isn't it just?
lovely stuff. But let's touch on the game anyway. Obviously, the game started very well for us, apart from the linesman being probably the most active player on that pitch. The geezer only lined like the flag up every single time. And now I know you've obviously said, Frank, in the group chat that majority of them, to be fair, were offside. I just think from a home crowd's perspective, every time we were going forward, it looked like we were going to, grab a goal, and he just had his flag up every time. And, as a game going on, though, it was just pure dominance. They had their few counters. I think Andre Brooks should have probably had 1 or 2. There was one where he kind of twisted Sturge up on the left and then kind of cut on his right foot and just spooned it. But obviously, again,
sliced it. It didn't need to.
But there was chances, obviously, for them. But as an overall sense, we probably could have been 4 or 5 up before half time, right?
Yeah, mate. Going in at half time, it's one of them games where you think to yourself. It reminded me a little bit of like Charlton at home last year, where you're thinking, surely they can't be that bad in the second half. And we're going to be sitting there thinking we're going to regret not taking these chances. And I was sure the second half was going to be a lot tougher. As you said, mate, we should have been outside by half time. You think we had hit the post, the Negley volley, which was unbelievable technique, disallowed goal, the one where 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗪𝗡 arguably maybe should have passed it back to Coburn. He sort of had that shot and blocked on the line. The 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗪𝗡 header, like I've never seen anything like it. And I said, then there was the amount of chances that were ruled out for offside. To be fair, our Conte and 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗪𝗡 have got to sort themselves out, mate, because they were offside a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the problem when you have especially with those two, they're explosive. And I think they do kind of prey on that chance of being on that last leg, like on the shoulder, to try and beat them. But to be fair, both of them have got blistering pace. They don't need to
do it
that tight. Yeah, but I mean, our Conte's just a beast, isn't he? He's just like, he's quick, he's strong.
Yeah.
He's pretty much like, if you was to build a player, that's exactly what you want him to be, right?
He is physically just ridiculous. I'm not sure about his celebration. But
listen, if he does it 20 more times this season, mate, I'll be doing it everywhere. What are you talking about?
You'll be doing that, will you?
Yeah, if he scores 20 goals a season, I'll be doing that.
Yeah, keep that to yourself, mate. Don't be when you start doing that, son. It was quality. And to be fair, I mean, I think Alex Neil said it, but he owed us that goal, didn't he? That was an awful miss last week. But yeah, he was outstanding. It was difficult to fault a player in that first half, if we're being honest. Like, I thought all of them played really well. And if I'm going to be ultra critical, the only issue is, once again, similar to last season at times, don't take our chances.
Yeah,
Like,
no, 100%. I think, like you said, like we could have gone in there 3-4-0 up, and based over like a team performance. Again, it was the same as last week at Bristol. Every single player on that pitch put out an 8 or 9 out of 10. And then, again, Lisby's performance, I do feel like he's trying a little bit too hard to impress. I feel like last week at
100%.
Bristol, he was kind of just himself. He was a bit more he was also trying to do a lot, but in a sense of it was relaxed. There wasn't obviously the home crowd behind him. On Saturday, it did feel like he was trying to play up to the crowd and be kind of more than what he needed to do. But still, overall, like, he was really good, got in good positions, mixed it really well with Metcalf as well. Just ultimately as well, he cuts inside a lot of times and it does get blocked. And you do think, well, to be fair, it doesn't get blocked. He's probably got 2 or 3 goals now. So, you don't want him to he's kind of similar to when you used to watch Liverpool with Darwin Núñez in that sense of, like, sometimes he's frustrating, but he's also just a love to watch because you just never know what he's going to do. Like, he's very raw.
Yeah, he is. I thought he played well, and he was definitely a threat. My concern is that I think there will be games where he's one of them players when he beats a man, it feels like it can look amazing, or he's sort of just bundling past people. I think he's going to have games where he's going to look really, really off it, which is a young player. That's natural. That's fine. I do worry about them games, and I think that's probably where we do still need another left winger to help him out for them situations. Some of his final product is genuinely terrible. Like, if you watch our first goal back, just before we recycle play, he's got the easiest ball onto Coburn. He could just roll him in. Mate, he must have passed it about 3-4 yards to the left and it goes straight to their defender. You're thinking, Jesus Christ, mate, like, just play him in. It was such a simple pass, but he is electric. He's electric, and you're going to get that in you. And what I did really like, if you watch our first goal back, Coburn has the shot, keeper saves it, falls to Lisby is absolutely sprinting into that 6-yard box. Like, he's so awake to them chances. He'll get goals doing that this year, and that's where, mate, you haven't got to worry about trying to do too much. Just play your game, because the goals will come, because his movement in the penalty area is first class.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I heard someone next to me in the block 10 was basically like, "Oh, it's Amaku 0.2," and I was like, the difference is Amaku could run, but he couldn't beat players and he couldn't finish, and he had the worst end product I think I've ever seen from a winger. With Lisby, it's a sense of he just needs to have that, like, 10. Maybe he just needs to take those 10 little seconds in between spaces, like you said, where he's watching offside, or in a sense of, like, in his head, I think he knows what he wants to do, but he's so quick. His body moves faster than what his mind does. And like you said, like, he does look like he's bundling his way through, in a sense of he knows he wants to skip past you, but then it's hit his knee, but in his head, he still wants to try and get past the other side. And then he's reacting to how he's playing. But as a player, I mean, it's unbelievable. And I think we saw it at Bromley in pre-season with him, Arcont and Femi. The counter-attack and the way they could interchange was unbelievable.
Pace is ridiculous, yeah.
Again, in that game, they were offside about 20 times in the first half.
They need to work on it, because whilst we're laughing now, it was bad in that first half.
Yeah, no, 100%. But at the end of the day, we've played 2 games and we've dominated them both. I think they're pretty much the same kind of game, in the sense we've taken our chances this week rather than kind of relying on the fact of everything else like we did at Bristol, where, we won comfortably, but we could have won that again 3-4-0. And then you're looking at obviously who we've got next, again, excluding Cambridge, because obviously I expect a big change around for, I want to see Baggott obviously come in. I want to see those type of players and see how they handle it. But obviously moving on to Saturday, it's a big away game again against the Saints, who again haven't looked amazing. Yes, they've won again this weekend, but ultimately they don't look the team they were at the back end of last year. The way that we've played in these first 2, there's nothing in my mind that's, fearing them at all. I think, we are the team to beat at this point in the league. We are sitting top. We should have every confidence. We have the best away record in the league. And I don't see why we should go into the Saints game fearing them at all, especially with this pace that we have now on the wings and the counter-attack. And like I said in the warm-up, it actually helps now because you've got a lot of different options up front, in the sense of you've got the fast pacey side of it. You've got Coburn and Dykes, who are your kind of hold up and, play off the last shoulder and win the aerial threat. And then you still got the Serb to come in, who I still think is finishing wise is probably one of the best at the club. It's just he's a very luxury type striker, and I feel like the more we obviously have that kind of unison between all of that, we are a better threat. But obviously, that's obviously the talk for Southampton. But in the sense of the Norwich game, it just looked like we were the complete team yet again.
I didn't see it coming, mate. I said I just honestly didn't see it coming. I thought Norwich, but I thought Norwich. Whilst I said at the beginning of the show, I don't think they'll be up there. I still don't. I thought they'd be better than what they were. I thought they'd cause us problems because of what we saw, as I said, last April when they pretty much cost us promotion that day, right? I mean, so I thought they'd be better than what they were. I don't know how much of it is we were excellent and how much of it is they were just terrible. I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I can't, but in the same breath, I don't think I could think of a Millwall performance that I would say was more complete in my that I've seen live and in my head.
I think the third goal literally pretty much sums up the whole day in itself. There was just, Negley's quality came through yet again. I mean, the assist for Cundall's goal is, it's unreal. But then, in a sense of like a team goal, how you'd want to work it, it's pretty much how it's probably Alex Neil's, perfect version of how he wants us to be. On the counter, fast break, we played it wide, nice little incisive ball. And to be fair to Cundall, there's a player in there, then, he can, he's coming up with big moments yet again. 3 games he's played this season, he's already got 2 goals. All right, yeah, 1 is in the cup. But again, I mean, from a squad player, that's exactly what you want. Someone that's going to come in and take that pressure off the other boys. And even the likes of obviously Lovelace and Dan Kelly that came on, I think they both worked their socks off. Dan Kelly actually broke with the ball for the third goal and played the right pass. I think he had like 3 options he could have picked, and to be fair, the one person you do want to pass it to is Camille.
Give it to the best player on the pitch.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, but as I was just speaking about best player on the pitch though. Who's your 3 kind of standouts? Because it's hard to choose. Because again, at Bristol, I feel like we could have picked anyone, and then obviously again this week, I mean, everyone was exceptional, and to a point that obviously you could easily pick out anyone if on that starting 11, and no one could really sit here and say, don't know how you choose him.
It's really hard, mate. It's genuinely really hard to even think of a top 3. I think if I was the one that has to be in there is Metcalfe. I thought he was absolutely mustard. Like, to think that's his second game in the Championship, he is going to be a ridiculously good footballer. He's so good on the ball and he's everywhere. He picks up too many yellow cards. Don't get me wrong. I thought this was a harsh yellow, but
yeah, but to be fair, so it was the same one as at Bristol. He actually gave away the foul, but it was for a handball that he got booked for, and I was like, it's pretty much been kicked out his hand there.
It's a bit harsh, mate. Yeah, but he was incredible. So Metcalfe's definitely in the top 3 standout players. I thought Coburn was really good. He dominated both centre backs. It probably feels a bit harsh on our Icon to have scored 2 goals. I'm not going to name him, but the other one I thought was Negley. I thought Negley was ridiculous all game. I don't think he gave the ball away. His range of passing, his energy. I mean, there's one bit where we had a corner. They then broke, and he sprinted the entire pitch to clear it at the near post. Mate, you're attacking midfield. What on earth are you doing?
Yeah, but you know what he's like. He covers every single bit of grass he does every game. So.
He loves it, mate. He was class yet again. Just so good. I actually thought to myself, I was watching the game, I was thinking, I cannot believe this geezer plays for Millwall. Like, he should be playing for. Normally, he's sort of player you look at for Norwich and go, yeah, there is a reason why these lot get promoted, because he's just ridiculous. Who else is good? It just feels really harsh because I thought Sturge was really good. I thought 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗪𝗡 was first class. 𝗗𝗢𝗪𝗪𝗡, one of his best performances I've seen from him in a while. Icon obviously got 2 goals. I've not mentioned him. It's really harsh on a lot of these players to not be listed. But yeah, the 3 for me I think really stood out were Coburn. I thought he led the line exceptionally well. I thought Metcalfe in the middle was bang on, and Negley is just, every week I watch him, I think, I can't believe this guy's wearing a Millwall shirt. Yeah, what about you? Anyone else that you'd say that I've not?
I think 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗡 Taylor. Honestly, every single week that goes on, I fall more in love with this man. Honestly, like 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗡 Taylor, if he's not in that England squad for the next World Cup, I generally don't know where we're looking at for centre backs, because he is unbelievable. And the fact that he's come from a team that thought he was a 5th placed player in their squad.
Nonsense.
Mate, he's unreal. He's literally, there was one point, if he ran with the ball and he just kept going. Then something happened in the midfield. He ended up breaking to him again. I thought he was going to run straight through on goal. It was like right at the back end of the second half. And I thought, just get a goal. Like, he's just an amazing player to watch. But in terms of like for his age, and you look at him, you just think, You're going to be a clumsy centre back. You can't, but he's like a Rolls Royce on the ball. He takes control of every situation. He seems to put a leg out and just win everything in the air. No one beats him. He pretty much is like a prime Cooper
He
at
nearly,
the age of
nearly
like
scored a back heel.
Yeah, oh mate, if that went in, I generally said to Cal, who was sitting next to me, I was like, "Was that Taylor?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "If that ever went in, I would have been going mental." But like, he's just a Rolls Royce. But again, week after week, it's always hard because like you never really want to give it to defensive players for like your best players. But week in, week out, I generally do think he's the best centre back in the Championship.
I read a stat today. It's quite interesting. Well, I thought it was interesting. Did you know we're the only side in the Championship to have kept a single clean sheet this season? And we've kept 2.
Yeah, Jensen.
Like, but he didn't do anything. He had one
No, he
save.
doesn't have to. Doesn't have
Like,
to.
it's ridiculous, isn't it? Like, we are. Again, I don't have to see. I haven't checked this, but I think I saw it on the highlights when I was watching the game back this morning. In the first half, we didn't have one headed clearance. Just to show how piss poor Norwich were. At no stage in that first half did they put a ball in the box that we had to head away. And I know that we would sit there and say, yeah, it's because you're not putting crosses in because you've got 2 6'6" centre backs. They just didn't do anything. They just
I
were
said,
not in
apart
the
from
game.
those 2 chances with Brooks, I don't think they had a shot where it was like, well, okay. I think they had one in the second half where they had like a shot from far and it ended up like absolutely spooning out towards the corner flag. But
There
I
was the
think
one
that
Jensen saved, wasn't there? When he sort of the guy cut in, went
oh
to put in
yeah,
the bottom left corner and he palmed it away. It's actually a really good save. And if he hadn't saved that, you'd be thinking to yourself, this could then be a. Was that at 2-0? I think so. I think it was before the red card, yeah. You think if that goes in, it's a different afternoon, isn't it? But
even
yeah,
that side of things, you look at the officiating and like that's 2 games now where we've got 2 red cards. That's not again like for us, and you think, okay, like obviously it's not going to continue, but at this point you are thinking like normally we don't get these. They never want to bottle it. You know, the referee's always kind of like, oh, I don't want to give these ones, but it's like, and to be fair, and he's both second in the first and second game. They've given both, which is very clear, red card. So at least they're not bottling it in that sense because both of them are pretty much, both the red cards are 2 decisions that you can't really be like, oh, I didn't do nothing, ref. Like you have pretty much just held on to him and then obviously our cons run forward and he took him out. So
the second one could have been a straight red, if we're being honest. Like, he was the last man. I actually did think that his first yellow, what's his name? It's Dober or something like that, innit? I actually thought his first yellow was a bit harsh, but apparently on the referee's match report, he gave it for dissent, not for the foul. So bearing that in mind, you've talked your way into the referee's book and then you've got caught out. What I do think was slightly, where I will give the Norwich defender a little bit of, not credit, but sympathy. I thought, is it Harry Darling, his
yeah,
partner? I thought he was terrible.
yeah,
I
he
thought he
was
was
terrible.
absolutely shit. And he gets turned by Coburn, not strong enough. And then because he was so piss poor, he's never to come across and he's just been caught out of position, isn't he? And that pretty much summed up his entire game with just his partner was just weak and he was up against it. But I mean, that's where having 2 up front helps, right? Not many teams play with 2 up front anymore. So doing that, it does give you an outlet. We saw it work with Ivanovic and stuff and it looks like a Conte's benefit now. But yeah, very good
Yeah.
performance. Very good
I mean,
performance.
one thing I would like to touch on is the 2 up top has worked in both these games, right? And it'll probably end up being the formation that we go for again against Southampton. But what I have noticed is the second we do kind of have a period, like you said, where Norwich and Bristol, to be fair, were kind of in their 5-minute, 10-minute period. What is very much to see is that with Metcalfe and Denor, they are, I feel like you are still missing that third in that midfield. I feel like at times. We are very, like when we do get done on the counter, it is very back to front, very quick. Basically, because Metcalfe is pressing very high, at times he's pretty much up there with Coburn pressing. And obviously, Denor just doesn't have the legs to kind of do a one-man midfield, which is at times it obviously is. And obviously, I still feel like even as good as Negley was Saturday, he's still
He's
better
not a
played.
defensive midfielder. Yeah.
No, but he's still better essentially. One, just because he gives you that legs, but 2, I just think he dictates everything through the middle. And I mean, at times, just on Saturday, you kept seeing it every time he does get the ball on the wing. If it's a period of time of like where he has to beat the man, he will always go back because he hasn't got those
He ain't got
legs.
the pace. Yeah.
Where in midfield, he can drop into pockets where he can turn people, whereas on the wing, it pretty much is pace related. And I just feel like Negley is better suited in that kind of in a 3-man midfield like we've had with Derek and Negley and Caspar. But I do think as the season goes on, and obviously once Derek's back, once Cervais is back, I do think at certain points we probably will see that 3-man midfield come back because it has worked obviously well for Alex. And I think going forward, obviously the 2 up top is also, a good option. I think that's the point we've got now. Regardless of Femi goes or stays, and we've obviously now played 2 games basically without him.
Right. Yeah.
Both we have the setup now for a 2-man or a 1-man up top. And obviously Coben, I don't know what they've been feeding him, but he's cleaning up top by himself at that point as well. And he looks a lot quicker, which is one thing I have noticed. It's like he looks like he's on that when someone's kind of whipping that pass around the back line of the defence. He's getting onto it he's on it, mate.
Yeah, it does look a lot sharper, doesn't he? I mean, I was a bit nervous about him in pre-season because I thought he was one of the ones for me that I thought had a really, really poor pre-season. But it just goes to show how little it means because he started the season absolutely on fire. He gave Bristol City no end of issues last week, gave Norwich no end of issues this week. I agree with your point about the formation change. I think it'd be an interesting one because I do think when everyone's back at the minute, you'd say Metcalf is undroppable. But if you then got 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗡, who is our big money midfield signing, the marquee signing this summer, what do you do with him? You've got no one's even mentioned Derek. Do you know what I mean? Like, what happens?
Well, that's the thing. Before the season started, Derek for me was the number one in midfield. Yeah,
yeah, 100%. And now I don't know where some of these players will play. Don't get me wrong.
I think
it's a good problem to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's where you want it though, in the sense of we've always been stuck where we've had to bring on the likes of Honeyman and Ferguson and all these players who are just below par. But now we've got a point where we're like, how do we actually? It makes you do wonder when you look at big teams like Cities, the Arsenals, Chelseas, when you have like £40 million players sitting on a bench, and you're thinking, how are they not even getting a kick? But it's a good problem to have, right?
It's Joel as well. It's very early days, but I was sitting there this morning thinking to myself, where on earth would someone like Billy Mitchell play in this team?
He wouldn't even start
because Metcalf is just, from what we've seen so far, it's a very, very small sample size. I'm sure Metcalf won't be this good the entire time. Metcalf just levels above him. And again, I'm sure there will be times when we're sitting there, Metcalf's having a poor game, you're thinking we could really do with Billy's experience in this midfield today. But at the minute, it just looks like we've got players that are on another level. Not to slag off Billy, he was really good for us, but we just seem to keep improving. I don't know if you've watched it, but Alex Neil made a comment in his post-match interview talking about the system. And he basically makes a comment about we've got a system we play where players can come in, and because the system works, you can interchange players quite easily and the standard doesn't drop too much because everyone knows their role in the system. And he went, obviously, you put better players in, it works better, but you've got almost the minimum baseline of it's going to work. I do think a lot of players really do benefit from how we play because it does, you think to yourself, how do we keep just getting this right of every single player we sign? You said about Caleb Taylor, couldn't get a game at West Brom. Was their 4th or 5th choice centre back. He is now arguably the best centre back in the league, at least top 3. That's ridiculous. But is it the system? And
I don't think from a centre back point of view, I don't think so, because I feel like apart from like most teams, I should say, like we want our team to pass out the back, and also we've tried to kind of like we have seen that in our game a little bit now. But with Taylor, with Cooper, they're basically just there to just dominate, and that's what they are. They're not asked to roll into midfield, take. Like I watched Man City this morning, or in this afternoon rather.
Yeah.
And I was watching 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗪𝗡 play in CDM. Then like Rico Lewis was then chopping inside to be a winger. I was like, that's too complicated for me.
It's too complicated. What are you doing?
So complicated. Even like the commentators couldn't work out who was playing where. But like we're not asked to do that. We are kind of go long when we need to go long. And if there's a time to play out, then we try to play out, and that's what we do. And it does help, obviously, that Taylor's comfortable enough to play out, whereas Cooper's kind of the hit and miss of De Bruyne. He either spoons it into Rowan's head or he picks out a 60-yard ping to feet.
Yeah.
But like there is no in between with them. But in a sense of, I don't think that system. I think maybe Kramer's the only one that you could probably say he has benefited from being moved out of position and looks like he's exposed himself to it. Kind of similar to when Lenny was terrible in midfield, and then we found an unbelievable right back when he's fit. And it's like, but I remember when he first joined, I was thinking he's absolutely terrible, Lenny. So I don't think the system, but I do think in some ways we've definitely evolved this year. In the sense of Femi last year pretty much was, we saw it in games where we just give it to Femi, he was just whipping the ball in at that point because there was nothing else to do. And we were just like very one-dimensional. As I've mentioned, I keep going back to that Bromley pre-season game because I think it was chalk and cheese in the sense of that first half was electrifying on the break. Could have scored 3-4. Obviously, was loads of offsides or whatnot. But like it was exciting to watch. And then they made the substitutions. And as soon as I saw Coben coming on, I said, this is going to be a boring pump it long, kind of,
play off centre forward.
And it was, the second half wasn't as exciting.
It was flat, yeah.
And it did pretty much take Femi to beat 5-man before he laid it off and 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗟 scored. So, but like, at least with 𝗘𝗢𝗪 in this system, when he's built around everything else that had the first half at Bromley, you've got the pace on the wings. You've now got midfielders now supplying him as well. And I mean, the one thing with 𝗠𝗜𝗪𝗟 is defensively, he's as good as they are in the league. Going forward, though, he definitely has to work on his final ball.
He does. His ball for the 𝗂𝗂𝗪𝗓, the second goal, his ball for that was really good.
Yeah, I just always think when he gets in those positions, though, it's like he just spoons it to the back post, and it's like, it's very,
he needs to take his time a bit more. Yeah.
I remember when he scored last season when he went on that run.
West Brom.
Yeah. But I just think, like, take a little bit more time, compose yourself,
relax a little bit.
Like, we know you're quick, but just take your time with it.
Sometimes it gets in the more advanced positions, particularly when it's like in and around the box. You can tell it's like a rabbit in headlights. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you can tell he's panicking. Yeah, if the thing is, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I never really thought much of Zacks Sturridge. We signed him. I thought he was all right or okay on loan, but I didn't see the player he is now. He is coming on leaps and bounds every week, and I have no doubt that he'll get that final element to his game. I think where the club has to be given so much credit, and be it the system, be it Alex Neil on the training ground, all the coaches, or be it just Gallon is just a genius. I don't know. It might be all three. I can't think of a player that we've signed or a player that was already here that Alex Neil hasn't made better. There is the odd exception. There's the likes of Barry Bannon. Fuck him. Don't talk about him. But even players like 𝗂𝗪𝗪𝗓 that have left. 𝗂𝗪𝗪𝗓's having his best season before he left. That was his best season in Millwall shirt.
Yeah.
Like, every single player that we've brought in or that was already here has improved under Alex Neil, or has improved in the last 20 months, 12 months, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think the only one that we could probably say, in a sense of from where he started out, in the sense of where he is now, and to be fair, I think that's just due to where we went about his best period. But Ben-Williams, when he came in, obviously scored on his debut, and then obviously the link up him and the Serb had in that little period was amazing. And then we signed Kundal, and then he got thrown out of the squad, and then from there, I think maybe it's a mentality thing, or obviously he's just fell out of order. But in a sense of where he then came into it to where he is now, he looks a shadow of a player from when he does come on. Because you thought, when we first saw him when he first played, he was just like that kid who was in the playground trying everything and beating players.
Fearless.
And then now when you watch him come on, he just looks quite lazy. You know, when
it's like he's scared of the game.
Yeah,
it's like he's scared to get involved.
He's scared to make a mistake to which he can then drop out again.
You
out of order.
You could maybe argue 𝗂𝗪𝗪𝗓. Ivanovic has got, I think, did dip off a little bit last year, but
I think that's due to more or less kind of our style of play and the players we had in that injury hit crisis.
Essentially.
Rather than, because I think when you play two up front, Ivanovic looks fine. I think when we did ever bring him on towards the back end of last season, obviously 𝗘𝗢𝗪𝗟 coming back from that injury, I think we pretty much played the same way, which is what I'm saying now when we have like 𝗖𝗓𝗪𝗓's. Now when 𝗘𝗢𝗪𝗪's, 60, 70 minutes in and he's knackered and he's been getting thrown around everywhere, you now have the likes of 𝗖𝗓𝗪𝗓's to come on. We don't have to change how we play. Whereas when Ivanovic obviously was coming on, we're just pumping it long to him and it wasn't working because pretty much that's just not even near any of his strengths. Whereas, like for example, I always think back to that Coventry away when he scored that volley.
Yeah,
I don't like. There's no one in the squad that's finishing that.
No, so his goal catalogue is genuinely ridiculous.
Luton away, 𝗘𝗢𝗪𝗓's not dinking a man and volleying it.
No,
he's just not that type of striker.
He's not. Yeah,
but the problem with obviously, as we keep saying, and I think we've always said it on the pod, they're two different strikers, but you can't say one's better than the other one in the sense of what they provide in terms of goals. But what you can always talk about in the difference is Ivanovic doesn't want to work for it, whereas 𝗘𝗢𝗪𝗓 will run his socks off. And like, for example, Saturday, he didn't score, but at the end of the day, he knows he's walked off that pitch with a 8 out of 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think what you get with 𝗘𝗢𝗪𝗓 is more consistent. What I would like to see this year, assuming that he's going to stay with us for the season, probably looks like he will. I think someone like a Lyndon Dykes in and around the squad could be a huge benefit to Ivanovic. I think you'll learn a lot from him, a lot about how he approaches the game, battles centre-backs. He's been around football for a long time, all right. Lyndon Dykes has a prolific career, but there is a lot that someone like Ivanovic can learn from that senior head. So that would be something that will be interesting as the season goes on. But again, at the minute, if we stick with what looks like a bit more of a 4-4-2, which I don't think we will long term, But at the minute, I don't see how Ivanovic gets back in the side. You're not dropping a Conte, you're not dropping Coburn.
No, I think probably you look at it for like, I think 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗪𝗓 is probably your Coburn sub, and if you are chasing a game or needing a goal, then I think Ivanovic is probably your a Conte sub, in a sense of he will play off the target man. He will kind of provide the extra body, and obviously, I mean, the benefit with Ivanovic is he's very much like an all rounder in the sense of like he's good in the air, he can finish, and he does have a good knack
Is he
for.
good in the air? It doesn't get off the
No,
ground, mate.
not in the sense of like going up against like, a long ball, but as in he knows where to be in a position for a header in the box.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Like,
agreed.
we've seen it. Like, look at QPR away last year. He happens to be in those spaces where he can just nod it in. But if you're asking him to put up against like a centre back where he's got to run and jump over, like he's not the greatest there. But if he can find himself in a position where he can not get tracked, then I do think he's in a good position there. But I do feel like we've stepped slightly away from Norwich. But let's get back
Just a
into
little
it,
bit.
and
Yeah.
let's just give a little quick fire for who your man of the match was.
Who's your man of the match?
Yeah, love that. Great answer, Frank. My man of the match was Jensen Metcalfe. I just think, in the sense of the whole game, it was unreal to watch. You just kept. I mean, there was one point he did a roulette and then nutmegged the player.
Yeah,
and
class.
I was like, yeah, this is boy is something else. So
Yeah.
but I think as a Millwall fan as well, we just love someone who will just run through a brick wall for you. And Metcalfe is pretty much that player. Like, he's got the quality on the ball, but he's also like he looks like he's a grown man in the sense of how he plays, like the aggressiveness. He's not scared to put a tackle in. Like, he just knows what he needs to do.
He's a proper box-to-box midfielder as well, isn't he? And you don't get him in modern football. How many box-to-box, like the last one? The only one I can think of is maybe like
I remember when we signed him, and I think it was me and you. We did a transfer video, and you mentioned something like he took 66 shots from outside the box last year.
Scored one goal.
And then you saw that on Saturday, because every time he had the ball on the edge of the box, in his head, you could see it. He was thinking, yeah, I'm going to let it fly here. And I think there was one he did in the first half, and he absolutely sailed over. But you're thinking, he's going to have a load of shot this year.
There was another way in the first half, though. He had this shot just on the edge of the area, sort of like trying to bend it into that far post. It was 100% going in, and the defender blocked it. But it was a really good strike. You're thinking, again, it wasn't a chance. It was more of a half chance, but yeah, he was some player. The reason I asked who your man of the match was because I had a funny feeling it would be Jensen Metcalfe. I just didn't want to give the same answer. But you're right. Jensen Metcalfe was the best player on the pitch for both teams. It'd be easy to sit here and say, it'd be easy to sit here and say, players like Coburn and Negley, I feel like we give enough recognition to. So I am gonna give an honourable mention to 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗪𝗡. I thought he was okay when he came on against Bristol City. Struggled to get in pace of the game. Obviously, a bit of a strange one for him. The other day, I thought he was exceptional. Right back. It was really, really good. Constant threat down the right hand side. And we didn't. Biggest compliment I could play him was we didn't miss Crammer at all.
No, so, I mean, I think very much like you said, Bristol was a sense of like he didn't impress me at all. He looked very slow, looked very kind of sluggish, but then on the ball on Saturday, very, very good. Positionally, very good. One thing I did kept saying to Callum is like he did keep losing duels in the sense of like being weak, but I think you expect that from maybe he's more of an attacking wing back, whereas someone like a Leonard, is not going to lose a 1v1, but he's probably not going to have the same kind of passing range that 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗪𝗡 has.
We got it. Yeah. Did 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗪𝗡 technically get an assist? I guess he didn't, did he? Because
I mean, he pushed it towards the goal. Coburn hit the keeper.
Yeah, so he's not going to get any stats for that, but he basically got an assist. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
you're not getting that from Lenny, are you? Although Lenny did get one against Bristol City. So what am I talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You're rusty, mate. You're rusty.
That's it, mate. That's it.
Oh yeah. So your man of the match is going to be.
No, mate. You're right. The man of the match is Jensen Metcalfe. But yeah, I just want to give an honourable shout out to 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗪𝗡. I thought he was superb.
Yeah, no, 100%. So yeah, Jensen Metcalfe is the 1885 show man of the match. Now that is the end of our video. Please make sure you are liking, subscribing, telling all your family members, your friends. Just keep posting us everywhere. But also a big shout out to our sponsors, which is the Tap Room. And also, again, I don't think we've mentioned it quite as much as we probably should do, but the Finalysis app, if you haven't been using it, get on there. I've been doing it as well. You get to rate all your players. And to be fair, it's basically Twitter/X, but just with every Millwall community member that you can find, pretty much, in the sense of you don't have to deal with no West Ham, no 𝗖𝗓𝗪𝗓𝗓, no one that you don't want to have to deal with on there. It's just pure comments, pure opinions. And obviously, go and download the app. It's free. So go and use it. That has been the 1885 show. Thank you very much. It's been Frankie and Charlie. Thank you very much.